Previously on Still Crazy After All These Beers.
It's been my life's work for 24 years to work my way up from invisible to infinitesimal. Today we've gotten all the way up to tiny. Our market share is about 0.8%. We're a tiny brewery struggling to be small, and I'm proud of that. I started in Boston. The company was 2 people, and we could not get a distributor to carry our beer.
I can't believe this company's been in existence for almost 25 years.
Still crazy after all these beers.
How does a new beer come about?
Well, it's very collaborative. I may be, the one that comes up with the crazy idea that the brewers are going, oh no, you want us to do what?
Well, they're crazy at the time.
Yes, they are crazy at the time, but usually I can see in my mind a pathway to a wonderful set of flavors. I'm not always sure where the pitfalls and the rocks are, but the way to get there is just start down the path and deal with the difficulties as you get to them. And I usually have in mind some really beautiful beer that I want to get to.
That brings up a very interesting note. Where do we go from here? I mean, obviously you're working on things. Is it the blending of new flavors, new brewing techniques? Where are we going to go in the next 3 or 4 years?
There's a whole lot of new things that excite me about what's going on in brewing today. And to me, the brewer's art is like the chef's art. It's not like a winemaker. A winemaker's sort of like a baker. They make bread. They make one thing. There's some variation, but not that much. A brewer is like a chef. We're making a plate of food. We can use a whole range of ingredients, of cooking techniques, and of different ways of putting all this together. And so there's all these cool things like, new ingredients. We make a Samuel Adams White Ale. It's got rose hips. It's got powdered plum, it's got hibiscus, it's got tamarind, anise, vanilla, lemon zest, orange zest, grains of paradise. We can use lots of different ingredients. We can, with things like Utopias, we're pushing the fermentation of grain to places it's never been before. And then there's other microorganisms that brewers are starting to work with, not just our little friends yeasts, but other bacteria that you can think of as flavor additions. And at some point, one of the things that I'm playing with is developing beers that can function as wine substitutes, but be more pleasant. And that might take 5-10 years.
And isn't it curious when people try some of your, I'm going to call them esoteric beers because some of them are not mainstream, which is a good thing. People will say, this is beer? And I'm sure you've heard that a million times.
Oh, absolutely. And my answer to them is, absolutely, it's beer. Look, I have to charge a nickel deposit. It's beer. But the reason that you're puzzled by this is that your definition of beer is way too small. You've tried to put beer in a little box because that's all you've known. But you have to think of beer as fermented grain. In the sort of the world of alcoholic beverages, fermented fruit is wine, fermented grain is beer, and liquor is the distilled product of the previous fermentation. So beer is fermented grain, and those are the only boundaries that we really face. And you can do amazing things within those boundaries that brewers have never even conceived of in 6,000 years of brewing history, and I want to be a part of that.
So we can expect a lot more exciting things coming down the road from the Boston Beer Company, from Sam Adams. Am I correct on that?
Like I said, still crazy after all these beers.
And what a way to go, right, Jim?
I'll drink to that.
I think I'm going to have one also. Jim, thanks for joining us on this episode of Still Crazy After All These Beers, and we'll see you next week. Thanks again, Jim.
Cheers.
Will you buy me a beer?
I hear they have good beer here at Monk's.
Maybe like a Sam Adams lager will work.
I'll drink to that too.
Okay, brother.
Thank you.
See you next time.